Okay, this felt like a very chaotic prompt month. So welcome to June's TBR Spin episode. Today I will be reviewing You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi, and I will be picking my read for June. This month's prompts was like a two-parter and quite a complicated set of events. So first of all, let me show you the stack of books that I have left. Oh, it's quite heavy because they are all hardbacks, but at least it's not 12 anymore. So this is what I have left after the first 5 months worth of prompts. So the first prompt on this month's episode is to pick the oldest book on your stack, and I'm surprised to say that all of these are 6 years old or younger. So the oldest book that I have is actually this one on top, These Dividing Walls by Fran Cooper. Oh, let me put this down. So this is a 2017 publication, and all the other ones are newer than that. So this is the one that's coming off, which is a shame because I had really quite hoped to get to that one this month. So I may still be reading this. You may still be hearing about this next month when I do my wrap up, but this one is the one that's having to leave. So in its place, we need to find the most recently published book on our shelves. Because I'm doing this all from my hardback shelves, that did somewhat narrow it down, but essentially I have no 2023 releases on my hardback shelves. So I went through and I picked out all of the 2022 releases that I've got. We've got 2 non-fiction, we've got the biography of Agatha Christie and the memoir from Chloe Cooper Jones. We've got the Secret Diaries of Charles Ignatius Sancho by Patterson Joseph. We've got The Gifts by Liz Hyder. We've got No Land to Light On by Yara Zagib. And we've got The Voids by Ryan O'Connor. Now, the 2 that I was drawn to from this were Easy Beauty by Chloe Cooper Jones and The Voids by Ryan O'Connor. Now, the memoir, I'm kind of hoping to do like a whole thing about memoirs in general. So I think I'm going to not choose that one. I'm going to choose The Voids. After a couple of weeks, I found myself standing outside the voids in the middle of the night listening for human activity, for any sign of life at all. Voids are flats that have been vacated, that will never be lived in again, but there never were any signs of life. Only the wind whistling through vacant interiors. In a condemned tower block in Glasgow, residents slowly trickle away until a young man is left alone, with only the angels and devils in his mind for company. Stumbling from one surreal situation to the next, he encounters others on the margins of society, finding friendships and camaraderie wherever it is offered, grappling with who he is and what shape his future might take. The Voids is an unsparing story of modern-day Britain told with brilliant flashes of humour and humanity. So that's what I'm adding. So this is the new stack. And for those of you who have watched this month's prompt video will know that the next part of the prompt is to choose a book that has 5 or more words in the title. Let's try and bring this into focus a bit more. We'll know that, 5 words or more in the title. And I've only got one on here that fits that. They're all 1 or 2 words. So it's The First Time Lauren Pailing Died. So we've got The First Time Lauren Pailing Died by Alyson Rudd is going to be my read for June, which I'm quite excited about. This one I'm feeling in the mood for. So what it says is, Lauren Pailing is born in the 60s and a child of the 70s. She is 13 years old the first time she dies. Lauren Pailing is a teenager in the 80s, becomes a Londoner in the 90s, and each time she dies, new lives begin for the people who loved her, while Lauren enters a brand new life too. But in each of Lauren's lives, a man called Peter Stanning disappears, and in each of her lives, Lauren sets out to find him. And so it is that every ending is also a beginning, and so it is that with each new beginning, Peter Stanning inches closer to finally being found. So this is a book about lost grief and how, despite it not always feeling that way, every ending marks the start of something new. So I'm quite looking forward to this one. So you'll hear about that next month. So I'm going to put these back on their shelf. All right. Okay. Now it's time for me to review You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. So I'm not going to beat about the bush. This was very close to a 5-star read for me. There are a couple of bits that knocked it down, but I'm going to explain what I liked, what I didn't like, so you can get a feel for why I felt the way I did. Okay? So let's start with the negative and end with the positive. So my big issue with the book was the dialogue between the characters. Now I accept that I am not an American, I don't live in a trendy city in a trendy neighbourhood. I am very much like British white. And so my way of speaking is not necessarily going to be the way that other people talk to each other. Like, I do accept that. I do accept there's probably a stylistic thing, but there are a few bits in it that kept bringing me out of the narrative. So the protagonist is my age, a little bit younger, but speaks with a much younger way of using slang. And again, this is fine when she's with her peers, when she's with other people her age, and she's using endearments like, you know, bruh, and I don't know, just, I can't even remember all of them, just loads of little bits that just, well, perhaps the way that I might speak ironically to my friends, maybe, but that I don't actually speak in normal everyday language. But the reason I found it so weird in the story is that even when she encounters an older gentleman who she eventually has a relationship with, she still speaks this way. She still calls him bruh and uses this slang terminology. A, even though he's much older, and B, even though he lives in another country, like in an isolated house in a mountain range, so he's not necessarily in these sort of trendy cities, and yet it's supposed to come across as natural. Like, it just doesn't feel natural the way she speaks to him. I think most people have like this element of respect for older generations and speak, even if you do end up falling in love with them, like, and you speak in a way that's perhaps a little bit more clearer, a bit more correct. So it just felt a little bit odd to me. Like, it's not the biggest gripe, it's such a small thing, but these are the small things that bring you out of a story, I think, that make you go, this doesn't feel quite real. Now, I know when you look at the reviews, so I look on Storygraph when I'm looking up average reviews, and the average reviews for this are actually really low, and I think there are a couple of reasons for this. Number one is that people who are looking for Akwaeke Emezi's writing are expecting something a bit more literary, and while this is a literary romance, it does still fall quite heavily into romance, and so it's perhaps not what people are expecting. And the second reason is people who are coming to this because they like romance and this is their first Akwaeke, or, you know, they're just expecting something that's not so literary. This may feel a little bit too literary and a little bit too far away from those standard tropes and those standard ways of writing that are normal in romance. I hope that makes sense. But let's try and unpack what I mean by this is not like your standard romance. Why is this not like your standard romance? So many romance novels are touted as being like high stakes, or, you know, like enemies to lovers, rival families, crossing some sort of social barrier, whether that's racial or gender or something. Like, they're touted as being as high stakes for those reasons, but ultimately things always come good and it's fine. This really challenges that, and it gives you a very messy situation. It gives you such a messy situation that I think a lot of people were made to feel very uncomfortable with it. But I think Akwaeke is trying to make the point that these messy relationships do happen. This is something that does occur. People fall in love with people that they really shouldn't. As I say, it's an older man, but there's more complexities to it. So our protagonist is returning to dating after suffering the grief of losing her husband in a tragic accident. So all of the relationships that she enters into in this book, and there are 3 of them that we really see her going into, all of them are messy in their own way, but they get progressively more messy as we go through the book. And Akwaeke is really showing us how painful and scary it can be to return to dating after feeling like you were in love and having lost someone in such a tragic way. Okay, so I wasn't going to spoil it, but I think this is important, and this is a reason why people don't like it. But the reason this is so messy, and the reason I think a lot of people are made to feel uncomfortable by this book, is that one of the relationships that our protagonist has is with a gentleman her own age. Maybe, I think he's like a year younger, whatever. But with a gentleman her own age, but she says to him, I want to take things slowly, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for a serious relationship, where the previous relationship she'd had was very much about the physical side of things. This one, she's like, I'm not ready, let's be friends. But it's clear that there's something more than friends there. But then it's this guy's father that she falls for, and that she ultimately ends up dating. And obviously that is a very painful, a very hurtful and harmful situation to be in. So yeah, this is super messy, but I think Akwaeke is trying to make the point that sometimes what we need is somebody who understands what we've been through, who can sit with us in our grief, and that can be a foundation for a relationship, just feeling understood, feeling like you can be who you really are, feeling like you can express the way that you feel without being judged or being misunderstood. So, So this gets really high rating from me because I've been grappling with the romance genre. I like how fast a romance book reads. I love that experience, but usually I feel a little bit deflated at the end because it feels a little bit superficial. This one is not that. This one has all those deeper things that I could see myself coming back to. I could see myself rereading this and picking out various different aspects to look further into. But I really don't think that appeals to the generic romance reader. I think they're not looking to be challenged the way that this book attempts to challenge its readers. So that's my feelings on it. Yes, there are some bits that I didn't like about it, but ultimately it's a very highly rated book from me. So thank you for watching. I hope that made sense. I feel like I rambled. Maybe I didn't. And then next month you'll hear my review on the first time Lauren Pailing died. And maybe These Dividing Walls if I get time. Thanks, guys.